Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and in this tutorial I'm going to be talking about JSON. I'm going to explain to you what JSON really is, and I'm going to show you the different data types in JSON, and I'm going to show you how you can apply JSON in how you can encode and decode JSON in some few modern programming languages. So the term JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. JSON is a lightweight data format that stores data in human-friendly key value pair structure. It is mostly used to interchange data between different servers or clients. So I know all of these might sound a bit complicated to you, but as we move on in this video, I'm going to explain every single thing to you. So JSON is very, very light compared to most of the other formatting languages because of the key pair structure that it uses. So I'm going to explain further on this as we go on. So let's talk about the advantages of JSON. These advantages are actually against other kind of formatting language against other type of data formats. So JSON is light, very, very light compared to most other tools like XML and the other. JSON is very, very light. It uses key pair to store data, and the fact that it uses key pair to store data makes it to be more human readable. It's have native support in most programming languages. So in most programming languages, you don't need to install an external library to use JSON to encode and decode JSON. It is actually built in most modern languages. It supports multiple data types. Also, JSON allow nested values. So you can have nested values for arrays and objects in JSON. We're also going to explain further on this as we go on. So let's talk about the data types in JSON. So JSON has 6 different data types. These are string, number, boolean, null, array, and object. In the picture on the right, you can see in the image on the right, you can see an example of a JSON file that has name, age, is asleep, wife name, hobbies, and address. So all of these will be broken down to us in the next few slides. So let's continue, guys. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the string data type. So in our JSON that we are presenting on the screen right now, we can see that we have a key name and we have the value Femi Fatoku. So this is a string data type. So the string data type in JSON is very similar to most programming languages, but in JSON you can only use double quotes to represent a string. So most languages like JavaScript and PHP, you can use both single quotes and double quotes, but for JSON, single quotes is a red flag. Whenever you want to use quotes, you have to use double quotes in any part of your JSON, even if it's in the key or in the value. But to create a valid string, you need to use double quotes. Whatever you put within double quotes, in between the double quotes is a string. And also you can have an empty string, just double quotes and nothing inside. That is going to represent an empty string. So that is that with the string data type. This is also very similar to the string data type in most numerous programming languages like JavaScript, PHP, Java, Dart, and many of them. This is just string. It's just the same string like with those. So let's continue, guys. Okay, so the next data type that I'm going to discuss about is the number data type. So age right here in our JSON represents the number data type. So the number in JSON is very, very similar to the number data type in JavaScript. So most other programming languages separate floats from integers. So like Java, you have the float data type, you have the integer data type. In many programming languages like that, they are separated, but JavaScript does not separate floats and integers. It just generally calls them numbers. So this is the same thing with JSON. So JSON, the number data type in JSON is used to represent integers like 10, 0, 15, 20, and floating point numbers like 10.967847, like numbers that have decimal points. So that is the number data type in JSON. Let us move to the next one. Okay, this time around I'm going to be talking about the Boolean data type. So the Boolean data type in JSON is the same thing with most programming languages. If you have experience, and I believe you do have experience with a couple of programming languages, you will know that there's always the Boolean data type, and I've not come across any language that does not have the Boolean data type personally. I don't know if there is, but most languages have the Boolean data type, and it just represents two values, true or false, just true or false. And this is exactly the same thing with JSON, just false in lowercase or true in lowercase. That is a Boolean data type. I know some languages like Python, when you want to assign a Boolean, you use capitalize, that is capital letter T and RUE, represent true. Then you use you just capitalize it to get the Boolean. But for JSON, it's just like most other programming language, it's completely lowercase. So complete lowercase false or complete lowercase true is a Boolean type in JSON. The is asleep in our JSON, as you are seeing on the right, is an example of a Boolean because it has the value of false. So that's it for the Boolean data type. Let us continue. So now I'm going to talk about the null data type. You might be wondering, why do we have to add the null when we can actually use an empty string? So there's actually a difference. So the null data type is used to represent when data is not available. Meanwhile, the empty string actually means that this is supposed to be a string, but there is nothing in the string. So this is different. Like the null is a data type, but the string is a value of a data type. So like the null is on its own and it just represents not available data. So an example of the null is the wife name in our JSON on the right. You can see we just put null. That's just how we spell it in JSON, just NULL in lowercase, and you have your null. So wife name is an example. The value of wife name is an example of the null data type. So that is that about the null data type. Let us move to the next one. So now I'm going to talk about the array data type. So an array in JSON is very similar to arrays in most programming languages. Some languages refer to them as lists, but it is most popularly known as arrays. So an array is a list of items, and in JSON, these items can be any other data types, including an array itself. So like we can have an array inside an array. We can have a string, we can have a number, we can have a boolean, we can have null, we can also have an object. So the phenomenon of having an array inside an array is called nesting. So arrays actually support nested value in JSON. So an example of an array in our code is hobbies. You can see it's enclosed in brackets, and we have 3 different strings, which are cooking, football, and coding. So this list can go as long as we want. So this is a basic example of an array in JSON. In the next slide, we are going to explain further on arrays. So we are still going to talk about the array data type. So this is an example. This is a basic example of an extended array. So you can see we have an array, and we have the first element in the array is a string. The second element is a number. The next element is true. Then the next element is null. The next element is another array, and we also have another element that is an object. So this is how array is in JSON. So let's move to the next one. So I'm going to talk about the object data type. So yeah, we can refer to the object type as the JSON itself, because as you can see, the object uses key value to represent data, and also JSON uses key value pair to represent data, and also the object is enclosed in curly braces, and also JSON is also mostly enclosed in curly braces. It can also be enclosed in arrays, actually, the brackets. So but mostly we use curly braces. Or for the needed use case, sometimes your JSON might be a list of objects and you can have it right there, or a list of anything items, you can have it right there. But mostly it's either a list, an array, or an object. So we are mostly talking about, we are using an object as the base in this tutorial. So address, for example, now as you can see, is just like having another object inside our base JSON object. It has key and value pairs like country is Nigeria, state is Kaduna, local government is Kaduna South, street is Dummy Street. So that is that about objects, and it also allows nested values, just like the array. You can have an object inside an object. So we are going to see to that in the next slide. So this is an example of an object that contains all the other different data types and also have a nested object right inside it. So we have a string hello world, we have a number which is indeed a floating point number, but it is still represented as a number in JSON. We have a boolean which is false, we have not available which is null, we have an array of 1, 2, 3, then we have a nested object inside our object which has key and value. So this is a basic. This is a more advanced structure of what the object data type can do in JSON. So guys, that will be that with data types. So let us continue with our course. So like I mentioned earlier, we are going to be trying to decode and encode JSON data in some few programming languages. So I just selected one of the few easiest programming languages to quickly go with, and I selected JavaScript and PHP. So I already mentioned earlier that JSON is natively supported in most programming languages. So this means that we don't need to install any external library or anything like that to handle our JSON data. We are going to pass JSON data in PHP and JavaScript in the next few slides. So let us get started, guys. Okay, so first JSON in JavaScript. So this is on the right side. On the left side we have the encoding sample code. On the left side we have, on the right side we have the decoding sample code. So you can see, first of all, we have the JavaScript object literal, which is the object variable. We have name is Femi token, and we have age is 20. Then in order to encode it, there's a built-in method in JavaScript called JSON.stringify. So once you call that, you just pass the object as the parameter. This is going to return a JSON encoded string for you that you can maybe send to a server that is supposed to pass JSON, or maybe do some other few things, or maybe store and stuff like that. So this is literally how to encode a JavaScript object or array and turn it into a JSON format. So we also have decoding. So this is right here. We have a variable, the object variable. So the object variable is actually a JSON encoded string. So we pick that JSON encoded string and we use JSON.parse to convert it into a JavaScript object literal. So the JSON.parse is a built-in JavaScript method that is used to parse JSON string into JavaScript objects. So basically this is it for handling JSON in JavaScript. So like I told you earlier, it's quite easy to handle JSON in most popular programming languages. So guys, let's just move to the next one. So now we're going to talk about JSON in PHP, and also we're going to talk about encoding and decoding JSON in PHP. So on the left hand side you can see we are encoding JSON in PHP, and on the right hand side we are decoding. So let me just explain what's going on. So in PHP we have arrays, and arrays can just have values, or they can have key pair values. So this is an example. So the subject variable here contains an associative array in PHP. There's something called associative array. So the name is the key, the Femi token is the value, the age is the key, the 20 is the value. That is on the left hand side. So if you use the built-in PHP function JSON encode and you pass the object, it is going to give you a JSON encoded object of the associative array that you pass to it. So this is how simple it is to handle, to encode a PHP array into JSON. So let's talk about decoding. So right here we have a JSON object, just like we had in the former slide. So we have a JSON object and we have key value pairs. This is a nice format of a JSON object, and then we'll pass it to the JSON decode, which is a function in PHP that takes your JSON string and decode it into a PHP array. So we pass it through as the second argument of the function because we want it to return an associative array. So basically, this is going to decode your JSON string and turn it into a PHP associative array. So basically that is it, guys. That will be the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and also if you like the video, like and subscribe, and if you don't like it, you can also dislike. So like and subscribe, share with your friends. If you like my content, subscribe to my channel to encourage me to do more for you guys. So that is it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Do have a nice day.